If you haven't yet, join our Discord. I want to bring in some live callers on future episodes. So join our Discord, and I'll bring you on live on the show. I see more of you joining. Don't be shy. Say hi and where you're from. One minute, guys. 1 minute. Joe Priest, what's up?
Started, no delay, let's work. Wanna see you be an SEO expert. Paul Andre De Vera, steady dropping knowledge. Over 15 years in the game, so he knows all about it. Master the art of SEO, you will be amazed. Time to get your brand off page to on page. Dropping knowledge, legendary for sure. Whether you're just getting started or self-employed entrepreneur. Yeah, let's go. Subscribe to the SEO video show. Hey.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the SEO Video Show, where SEO is alive and fun. My name is Paul de Vera, aka Dre, and I curate SEO videos released in the past week into about 1-minute clips. My favorite part of the show is when I get to introduce my guest, and my guest this week is the founder of Traffic2X, Nathan Gotch. Before we get started, let's say what's up to everyone in chat. I see Bradley, Joe, Craig, Greg, Nathan, Tim, Breeze, Glenn, Delilah, Andrew, Carol, so much more. Thank you for coming by. Now let's go ahead and pick this week's winner. Again, all you got to do is pick, I love SEO and put it in the live chat, or in the comments below, put I love SEO, and I will pick 3 winners every week to get a free subscription to this IMG courses. Let's go ahead and pick this week's winner. Freddie, email me. Bradley, you're here. Email me. Yasmin. All right. Thank you about that. Here we go. I see Zen just joined. Welcome. All right, now let's get on with the show.
What kind of fruit do SEOs like best? Low hanging.
How accurate is the average position in Google Search Console? How does Google calculate this metric? Let's see what John Muller says.
Well, the data in the Search Console Search Performance Report is based on actual search results that were shown to users. It's not a theoretical number, but rather based on actual results. We have a Help Center page with more information about these metrics if you're curious about the details. I'll link to it in the description below. The average position is based on the average top position of a URL from your site. If there are multiple URLs from your website which are shown in the search results page, we'll use the topmost one for this average. You might not always see the same position when you check yourself. That's generally due to personalization or geo-targeting, or because of short-lived visibility in search. You can sometimes make assumptions that this is happening if you see a number of impressions which is significantly lower than what you'd expect for those queries. That's usually a sign that your site was only visible for a small part of the overall impressions. For web results, keep in mind that your site might also be appearing in the images within the normal search results.
All right, on Twitter this week, they announced that we will have more time and tools and details on the page experience update. Not until June now, so let's go ahead and we don't have to worry about that in May. We got 1 extra month. Okay, Steve Toth shows us how he does internal linking with Google Sheets. Let's check it out.
Now that we have our priority order, so this is our engineers is going to be our first, and just arbitrarily we're saying mechanical is, we sell a lot of mechanical engineer courses, software engineers all the way down to electrical, which is least important. So I want to make engineers the first link in the content. So I'm going to, obviously it can't link to itself, so I'm going to make it the first link in all these other pages. And then since mechanical engineers is my second most important page, I'm going to make it the first link in this page. So now that I have everything on my main engineers page, I want to link to all of these different courses, and I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to say transpose, and I'm going to choose I'm going to choose these ones because I've already done that. I'm going to close that bracket and hit return, and then those will all sort of pop up there. But now I have to put the rest of these in as well. So I'm going to, again, transpose, and I'm going to now select mechanical engineers can't link to itself, so I'm going to select the next 4. And basically that's going to all sort of populate itself, and I'll just pause the video and do the rest of it. All right, so thanks for, I guess you didn't wait. I did it, and I guess it just resumed. So anyhow, I'm not going to record this video right now. It's going to look like this. So now that we have the first link in our content being engineers here, we can kind of see how in this case, since electrical engineers is our least important one, we're linking it last in every page but itself, and we are linking our primary pages as close to as the first link as possible, wherever it sort of permits. So again, like right here, you can see this is transposing A4 through A7 all the way down here, and then as we sort of get into the middle, we have to transpose the top ones above it and then the other ones beneath it, right? So you'll have this sheet to look at for yourself.
All right. That went by pretty fast. So go ahead. I put the link to the full video in the description, so be sure to check that out. Are you familiar with the role of linked open data in SEO? The SMA Marketing channel explains.
So what is linked open data? So from w3.org, they define it as this. Linked open data defines a vision of globally accessible and linked data on the internet based on RDF standards of the semantic web. Linked open data is often thought of as a virtual data cloud where anyone can access any data that they are authorized to see and may also add to any data without disturbing the original data source. So what it does, it actually opens up data to be used by everybody. It allows us to access data, to use data, and we use a format known as RDF, which we'll talk about in just a little bit, in order to make statements about certain pieces of content or in order to mark up our content so that it can be used and leveraged in this virtual data cloud. It allows us to add context without actually disturbing the original data source. It's extremely powerful, and if you want to go much deeper in it, there's lots of things that you can do. But at a high level, linked open data is open data on the web that is linked that we can use using the language RDF.
I love looking out to entities related to my articles of using schema, the SameAs schema, to let Google know what's about. And I use a tool called topicalrelevance.com. So check that out, topicalrelevance.com, to use some entities and how you can link out to certain entities. An OG in the SEO industry is Bruce Clay, and he just released a video on his channel called The Executive Guide to Overview to SEO. Let's listen in on how he describes how the search landscape is changing.
7 out of 8 clicks are going to be coming from organic results. That's why the click-through rate versus impression rate on paid ads is quite low. It doesn't actually give the meat as well as some of the organic results. However, even then, what we were used to for many, many years is that the head terms, which are your one-word or two-word phrases, they would generate a lot of traffic. And that traffic, we had figured out how to convert and really how to attract that traffic. And now, with some of the artificial intelligence, the head terms are not designed for transactional sites. They're more informative. Like, what is search engine optimization? Not who do I hire? And those changes really impact quite a bit. Now, additionally, Google has indicated other results, like 70% of the queries have no prior matches. Maybe that's it's a specific way of wording it. If you look at a website, many of the queries that people put in, they put in 2 words, they didn't see what they wanted, they added words to the end of the phrase. When you do that, nobody has actually got that string on their website. So 70% of the searches, you're not going to find an exact match within the content of the site. And if you're not going to find that, this is an opportunity for us to try to figure out how do people search and string together their queries, and how can we put the content on our site in that order. Even if it's not a string, we can put our words in an order, and we can attract the visitors right out of Google.
The guys over at Yoast talk about Cyrus Shepard's article on engagement signals as a ranking factor. Let's listen in.
How to think about optimizing for SEO metrics, and there are a million ways you can do that, a million metrics you can pick. You can obsess about rankings and impressions, etc., and it's pretty messy. He had a really nice mental model, which was that you really ought to be aiming to get more clicks, which is fairly evident, but getting a higher click-through rate from the search results is a good signal that Google can use to determine good fit. But you also want to be looking at improved engagement, which are long clicks. So when people hit your pages, they're reading, they're researching, they're digesting, they're thinking, they're browsing other pages. And you want to optimize for user satisfaction, specifically to get the last click in that search. So we suspect strongly, we know that Google measure when somebody hits a web page and immediately goes back to the search engine. And that suggests they didn't find what they were looking for. But if you get that high click-through rate, you get long clicks, and you're the last click in that search, that's a really good way of reinforcing to Google that you were the fit or the solution for that user's problem. And Google can measure those experiences and use that to influence your ranking and know that you're a good fit. It's a really nice mental model. It's worth reading.
Another engagement signal is bounce rate. Roman over at Boast ROAS shows us how we can reduce the bounce rate.
First things to do in your product page is to make sure you have call to actions, text, buttons, or something colored like this one. For example, it's a small text, but it's delivery estimate when you will deliver that product to the client. They must know that, because maybe you are not Amazon, they don't know you, but they want to trust you. So that is one way to trust you. Give them delivery estimate, maybe 1 day, 2 days, or if they are not in America, they are in Canada or I don't know, San Francisco. Give them specific days, like maybe 10 days, I don't know. It's a call to action. Or for example, free delivery in pickup point from X dollars, or free return in 14 days, or something like check package before payment. After that, a long description about the product. And then I think it's a third-party tool which they use. Like they say, take advantage of the Black Friday spring discounts. It's something like call to action, but they are trying to manipulate people, because not all of them know that it's something like to buy it in a fast way. They are trying to sell products really fast. They are trying to show that the product have discount or something like that. So it's an e-commerce deal, but it's a great call to action for your users.
All right. In an article on Search Engine Journal, they talk about it's a time to become an SEO is now. So, I mean, this brings me to my favorite part of the show. Please sure to ask questions during our it's the best way for us to learn. So go ahead and get the setup here. All right.
Nathan has been doing SEO for about a decade. He is the founder of Traffic 2X, formerly Gotch SEO Academy. He's currently helping over 3,000 agency owners and SEO practitioners get more #1 rankings and organic traffic leads and sales from Google. He has been featured in SEMrush, Ahrefs, Search Engine Journal, and Neil Patel. His YouTube channel has over 30,000 subscribers and nearly 1 million views. He went from broke security guard to multi-million-dollar, 7-figure online. Please welcome Nathan Gotch.
Thank you so much for having me. That was quite the intro.
Hey, what's up, Nathan? How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for that hyping me up, man. That was intense.
Of course. I gotta get the mood. I gotta get it going. This is how we do it here on the SEO Video Show. Welcome. All right. So I want to kind of like, all right, you've been. Let's take this all the way back. I want to know, how did Nathan get into SEO? Tell us that story.
Right. Yeah. So I apologize for anyone that's heard this story before, but I got started really because I didn't want to go the traditional path. So my family, when I was in college, they wanted me to take my poli-sci degree and then go and be a lawyer. That was kind of the path I was going to go. And secretly, I did not want to do that. In secret, I really wanted to work on the internet because I absolutely loved the internet when I was growing up. I was, whether good or bad, I was obsessed with Counter-Strike and, these games. So I was always obsessed with the internet, but I just never even thought that it was possible to make money on there. Until it was about 2011 when I was going into my senior year of college, I started to do some research about, how to make money online. And I stumbled upon all kinds of things, doing paid surveys, not so good things like writing college papers for other students, things like that, things that weren't really ideal. And with the paid surveys in particular, I was making, maybe like $2 per hour. So I knew that wasn't really going to be the solution long-term to make money online. So eventually I stumbled upon this course at the time it was called Web Colleagues. And it was $47 at the time, which was a huge investment for a college student. So, but I ended up buying it, and it had all kinds of crazy stuff in there, like just all kinds of things. But the one thing that really stood out to me was that you could start a blog to make money. And I was an okay writer. Like I had written a lot in college because of my poli-sci degree. So that's what I did. I was like, well, I guess I'll start a blog because that seems like something I could actually do. And at the time, as a college student, I didn't really have any skills. So the only skill I had was throwing a baseball because I was on my college baseball team. So I was like, well, I guess I'll just start a baseball pitching blog. And that's that blog ended up being just like the breeding ground for me figuring out SEO, because I worked on it every waking second I could during college. Mm-hmm. I think I was working on it more than I was actually doing any of my homework or assignments. And Well, I just realized, I had been working on it for 5 to 6 months and I was getting no traffic at all. But I was like doing everything that everyone claimed you should be doing, like writing a bunch of blog content and, all that good stuff. And so that's why eventually I stumbled upon SEO as a way to get more traffic to the website. And then from that point forward, like I just went crazy with SEO. Like I just started doing it on that site and I was like, wow, this is insane. I started getting traffic. I started getting my first affiliate sales. And then long term, as I got a lot more busy. I started working on many websites. But then like 3 or 4 years later, that site got acquired by a former MLB pitcher. So
nice.
Yeah, so it was kind of cool. But yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was my start. Was that initial blog, and then from there, it was kind of, for me, I was like, well, this really is, it's difficult to make a full-time income with just one blog. And so I was like, well, I can either keep creating blogs and try to build it out that way, or I could actually, start offering this to businesses. And so I actually did both. I actually started creating niche websites and this is, I've said this before and people think it's weird and I think it's weird too, but I was literally creating websites just to get the experience of ranking, to refine my process over and over so that I could have that consistency, so that I would feel confident in my ability to offer it to someone else. And so that's why I did that. And it ended up being a good idea. Like a lot of those websites made a lot of money. Like I had a website that was reviewing under-counter ice makers, and like I've never even had an under-counter ice maker in my entire life at that point. So, but it was just like stuff like that. Yeah, like they were making money, but the real goal and the real objective of me starting those websites was to just get the experience and build the portfolio, which then I could go and offer my services to other businesses. And that I started offering services to businesses in 2013 was when I started doing that. And I started very low. Like I started at $100 per month for SEO services. And to put that in perspective, I charge $5,000 a month now minimum. So, it's been a lot of progress since then. But yeah, that's kind of at a high level. There's been a lot in between there from 2013 to now, but yeah, we can go in whatever direction you want to go in.
So when you were learning it, you were talking about just, you got that ebook for $47 or that course. Was there,
Right.
And you were actually creating your own websites, which is, a great way to learn. Was there any other places that you were looking for inspiration, or like trying to at least getting some tactics, or like how did you even get to test some tactics? Where was your original inspiration to learn it?
Honestly, whatever I could just really get my hands on. I'm someone who tries to do, the just-in-time learning versus just-in-case learning. So, just-in-case learning is what we learn in college. We learn astronomy, we learn English, we learn things that, yes, it's nice to know, but we're not really going to be using it in any practical sense. But just-in-time learning is learning just when you actually need to solve a specific problem right away. And so you're basically learning when you need to get over a particular hurdle. So for me, I was always trying to, when I would encounter a new hurdle, I would just go and do the research. Google was my number one tool. But yeah, I mean, back then, believe it or not, I don't know how long you've been in the industry, but like Alex Becker at one point was someone that I followed a lot. And that's because he was doing, private blog networks and stuff like that. And that's what I was doing back then. But then I learned quickly that was not a good path. And that was around 2015 when I switched from gray hat SEO to white hat SEO. So that shift was important. But yeah, he's someone I attribute a lot of my early learnings to. And then obviously like Brian Dean as well. I've learned a ton from him too. He's super, super smart dude. So.
Love it. Okay, so you're talking about just-in-time learning, just to learn. But this actually takes me to something you said. This is like a quote that you said over here. The truth is, you can have anything you want in life as long as you learn a valuable skill. The more valuable the skill, the more you will earn. Can you tell me a little bit more what this valuable skill was for you, and what is this about? Can you give me more about this quote?
Right. Yeah. So I'm referring to the skill. So of course, SEO is the obvious one, but if we broaden it out a little bit further, actually what I'm referring to is the ability to get a business more customers that's really the skill. And I learned that from Dan Kennedy in the beginning, like very, very early on. I was reading all his stuff, and at the time I didn't know how to really implement any of the stuff he was teaching because I was too early. But one thing that just stuck with me for a long time is he's like, you will never be broke if you know how to get a business more customers. And like, I've always thought about that. And SEO, obviously, one of the best ways to get a business more customers. So I was like, well, I better go all in on SEO because this is clearly something that if he claims I'll never be broke again, I obviously want to do that. So, and he was exactly right. So it is incredibly valuable to learn. And it's not just SEO, obviously. Like if you can master Facebook ads, there's just so many other channels that you can become an expert in. But obviously I'm a little biased, so I just prefer SEO. But yeah, that's what I was referring to as far as, identifying those extremely valuable skills. And the more valuable that skill is, and the harder the barrier to entry to learn that skill, the more valuable it's going to be. So like back in the day, learning SEO and getting SEO results wasn't super hard. Anyone could really do it because you just throw up a couple PBN sites, slam the site with some links, and you would rank in about 30 days. Now it requires so many different skill sets to be able to get the outcome. And it is much harder than ever, but that's a good thing because a lot of people who were in the industry when I started, they're not around anymore. And there's a reason for that because they've moved on to other channels that are much easier. And I don't blame them, but I just decided to stick with it. So
love it.
Right.
All right. Harder the skill, the more valuable you will be, and earn more. So, okay. I love Dan Kennedy. He's a great marketer. I read all his books on presentations. He just knows how to speak to sell. He has some great stuff there. So, okay. I want to take this now to, like the last slide I presented in my earlier half of the show. It's about like, SEO is a skill to learn now. Like even John Muller saying it. It's like, and you are an SEO educator. You've had Gotch Academy, which is now, I believe, Traffic 2X. Can you tell us like the beginnings of how Gotch Academy developed and then where it is now to like a Traffic 2X?
Right. Yeah. So I actually did the first iteration of Gotch SEO Academy in 2016. And it was just because like I had always wanted to create a course. Like that was something I really wanted to do. That's kind of like the form of monetization that I've always wanted to pursue because I enjoy teaching. Like it's something I just genuinely enjoy doing. Like, sure, I could run a huge agency, but like, I don't love that. Like, I just don't love it. I don't love having to manage a bunch of clients and manage a bunch of employees. So the model that's always been interesting to me is the course model, the teacher model, the mentor model. And that's why back then I already had a big pool of clients at that time. So I had, enough, I was in a good position to start making those investments into training. So that's what I just did. I was like, well, I might as well just put what I've learned into a training course. And at the time I was deathly afraid to be on video. So I did not do any video for this first version. I only did text. It was like the whole course was a text-based course because that's all I was comfortable doing at the time. I was too afraid. And then after I launched it, it did not do very well. And I got a bunch of refunds because people were like, why is this just all text? And I don't blame them. But that made me realize I needed to step outside of my comfort zone and start doing videos. So the next iteration, I started doing some videos. Like it wasn't my face. I never showed my face, but it was just over the shoulder, like, hey, this is how you go and do blah, blah, blah. And I would just show. And once again, terrible. Like it was, when I go back and look, I'm embarrassed by it. And that's just the way it is. So, so then eventually, and that was fine. Like a lot of people loved it. Like it was good stuff, but it was just kind of like, rough to get through listening wise. So then when I decided, I was like, okay, I have these hundreds of videos that aren't super great. I decided I'm going to redo all of them. So I just redid every single video, upgraded them, made them better. And then that's kind of like the current version with many, many upgrades. But yeah, that's kind of how it's evolved. But now it's very different. So I decided that this is just, I don't want to get too off track here, but I'll kind of explain the rationale. I don't know if you know this statistic, but most people only finish about 10% of online courses. So that's, and And like, of course I thought I was different. I was like, no, there's no way they would do that in mine. But then I go and look on my back end and find out that like, there's like 20 or 25% of people who never even logged into my training. And like, that is very frustrating, you know, because I know that if they log into the training and they go through the training, they'll get the results. And, you know, all the testimonials I have, all the results and stuff like that are from people who did the work, right? You can't get the result without doing the work. So when I discovered that, and then I discovered that, you know, a huge percentage of people never even get through the whole training, I was like, there's something wrong with this model. Like, I just knew there was something wrong. Like, and I've had thousands of people go through my training at this point, but I just knew there was something wrong with the model. So I just made the decision that I'm going to change the model. And the decision was to make the content extremely systemized. So I'm literally giving, like, the new version of my training is very, very systemized. It's like, hey, these are the exact steps to do X, Y, Z in a full on SEO campaign. Like, this is the exact process we use for a client, for example. So I'm explaining that whole process with standard operating procedures and all that good stuff. But the part that makes it very different is I show up every Tuesday and Thursday and do a coaching call with all the members. So every Tuesday, every Thursday, I'm literally getting on the call just like this. And we're going over specific campaigns that the members are working on. We're building out sales processes. We're talking about various things that are going to help them grow. And I just felt like that was the only way for people to really get the result that they need, because it's my job to get them the result. If they're not going through the course and they're not getting results, it's my fault. That means there's something wrong in my process. So I realized, like, I need to change this process, and that was one way for me to start doing that, was to give more hands-on help. And that's really what people need. They need that personalized, hands-on, real-time help. And that's a downside with the traditional course is it can take up to a year to create a course, right? So it takes up to a year to create all that material. You launch it, it's already a year old. As soon as you launch it, it's already a year old. So that's why, you know, I never liked that, because it's like, you know, you just launch this thing and now it's already outdated. So I'd rather have something that's organic and changing, and the people who are in the course are getting access to the newest stuff at all times. So that's the long-winded version, but that's why I've made that, I've evolved, I guess. So.
Hey, that's awesome. That's awesome. Getting hands-on is like really important, and I think you're right. I mean, like, people would love that. It's more one-on-one stuff is something that will even get more value. You going twice a week? That's something. That's taking some time there. Okay, all right. Let's see here. It does. Yeah, I know. All right, you're talking about some processes and stuff like that. I mean, I'm curious. I mean, you actually wrote, I can't remember if it was a video you put out, but you actually were able to increase traffic by 534%. For one of your clients, right? I mean, I'm curious, like, what was like what was maybe some tips from that, like, that you did to get that client going to like 534% in organic traffic?
Yeah, I mean, the process is really the same as far as how we approach each campaign, but then, you know, what direction we go and changes based on their challenges. So in the case of this client, you know, we were able to identify that they just had a lot of unnecessary content. And so one of the first things we like to do in a campaign is look for pages that have no traffic, no impressions, and no backlinks. Those are the ones we go after right away, because I know those pages, they're pretty much useless. I mean, they're just taking up space on the website. They're likely causing keyword cannibalization. They're going to cause crawling and index issues, and they're actually even going to increase the server load on the website, which then as a whole makes the website load slower. So getting rid of those particular pages is always a priority. And then in addition to that, you know, we want to fix keyword cannibalization, which was something that this client was really struggling with as well. So, you know, we ended up deleting, I think we deleted like 2,000 pages. Wow. Yeah. And I do that a lot too. And it takes a lot of conviction and confidence to recommend that to a client. But it's the only, but the only reason why I have that conviction and confidence, because I've seen it work so many times, you know, because, you know, it just works because most websites are filled with a bunch of nonsense that needs to be just eliminated completely. So the only time that we actually will consolidate or redirect content is when it has existing backlinks. Maybe it has a little bit of traffic, but it's not substantial. So maybe we'll redirect it to another asset or consolidate it with another asset. But yeah, the thing that we do really differently is, and I obviously teach this in my training too, but we focus on the high impact stuff, because at the end of the day, there's literally there's a million things you can do in an SEO campaign, right? But the problem is that they're not all created equal. Like everything has a different weight. Like certain things have a huge impact while other things have a much smaller impact. So we actually use a scoring mechanism, and this is actually something I took from product teams when they're trying to decide like what's the next project they want to do to improve their product, right? And they use this ICE scoring mechanism. So, and what that is to decide. Impact is the first one. So ICE. So this is the acronym. So impact. So what is the impact this action is going to have on the actual rankings and SEO performance? We give a score of 1 to 10. Confidence, how confident are we that this particular action is going to increase rankings? And then ease is the final piece of that puzzle, which is how easy is it going to actually be to implement this? So whenever we're doing our audits, we categorize every single thing based on that mechanism. And that allows us to focus our effort on the stuff that's really going to be not only impactful, but not like super hard to implement right away. And so an example would be like link building would have, a really high impact. I would have a 10 out of 10 confidence that it's going to really work well. And then the ease is maybe like an 8 because we need the systems in place to go out and do outreach and get the links. So, but on the opposite side of the spectrum, fixing a broken link, impact is more like a 2 because fixing one broken link isn't really going to do anything. And so just having this system in place where you can prioritize actions based on the impact that they're going to have, it makes the biggest difference in the world. But yeah, I mean, there are obviously many things you did with that campaign, but eliminating the content. And then one other big move that we did was we actually transitioned, and this, you can't do this with every campaign, but it was because his campaign was so unique. He's a media driven website. So it's really content heavy. So we're like, hey, if you're just trying to make money with ads, and you're going to be content heavy, let's just move you to straight AMP. So like 100% AMP friendly website. So that's what we do. We moved into 100% AMP friendly website, and the value of that is huge. The loading speed, the user experience, it just changes the whole game when you can do that. But you can't do that with every website. You can only really do it with like media driven sites. So yeah, those are
Excellent.
Wow, man, that's some awesome stuff there. You've been dropping all these knowledge bombs. Thank you, Nathan. Let's go to the chat here. I want to see if we had something from Craig H. say, I just joined Traffic 2X and I'm loving it. So much info to learn and everything is easy to understand. Shout out to Craig. We got one here from Roman. Roman, you nailed it, Nathan. Came across your contributions in the past. Great work and keep doing it. And we had one more. We actually had a question come in. Let's check this out here. We had one that says, how to beat big property listing sites when you have started a new site? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, the biggest challenge when you have a new website is there's a few. First of all, you don't have any trust. So that's challenge number one. Number two, you probably don't have any links. So the biggest thing that you have to usually fix as far as the gaps is narrowing that link gap. They usually become the priority for most new websites. But there's also foundational stuff too. Like a lot of people will try to publish a bunch of content right away, but if you don't have any underlying link equity, any underlying authority, it's not really going to perform super well. So it's much better to create very few assets that are extremely good. So whether that's transactional pages, in the case of listing sites, you're going to have a lot of transactional or directory-based pages. Building those out, making sure they're optimized well, and then maybe building out 3 to 5 content assets that you can use as your vehicle for acquiring backlinks. That's usually the approach that I would have in a situation like that, because obviously with a new site, you should be you should expect to be doing this for 3 to 5 years if you're serious about it, because it's going to take you a long time to get going. So
love it, dropping all these knowledge bombs. All right, okay, let's see here. If you guys, anyone in chat has more questions, please go ahead and ask. But I got a question here for me. I want to know, I saw you have your YouTube channel. You got over 32,000 subs. I'm curious, how long did it take you to grow that? Is there some YouTube growth tips that I can apply here on the YouTube and the SEO video show?
Right. Yeah. Obviously I'm still learning. Right. Mm-hmm. So, cause I really only have my experience of just my channel. Like I've never really grown anyone else's channel, but this is really just from my one isolated experience. But in my experience so far, the videos that tend to do the best are the ones that I've invested the most time and resources into, as you would expect. I have this one video. And I try to always target keywords too. So obviously as an SEO, trying to target keywords to rank in YouTube search. But in reality, most of your views actually, when you're getting a lot of views, it's usually coming from suggested videos, not from search. And actually getting views, getting into suggested videos is not as easy as ranking as search. It's kind of a different dynamic altogether. But yeah, I mean, that's the first thing I did in the beginning was focus on keywords. And then as far as the way that I'm actually structuring videos, the videos that tend to do best are longer. Just kind of the way that it is. But yeah, I mean the on-page SEO video that I have on my channel that has 70,000 views, which isn't huge by YouTube standards at all. But that video, my video editor probably spent 2.5 months editing that video. So it was a lot of work that went into that, just that one video. So, every time I think about content, and this is sometimes why I don't create content, is because I know how much goes into it, in certain ways. So sometimes I'll go months without creating a YouTube video because I'm I literally just don't have time to invest in that type of, and I have very high standards, I guess, for myself. So I would rather not publish anything than publish something that's mediocre. So I just, I wish there was a shortcut, but there is no shortcut. And if you have one, I would love to know. But yeah, it's really just about, I would say the things that have helped me the most, getting more confidence is a huge one. Because in the beginning when I was publishing videos, once again, when I told you I was afraid to get on video, one of the first videos I published, I literally just took a video from the academy and uploaded it to YouTube because I was so afraid to show my face on YouTube. So that was one of my first ones. And then eventually I was like, you know what, whatever, man, I'm just going to go and do this because what's the worst that can happen? So that's what I started doing. And then, it's just, I was telling the members of Traffic 2X the other day, but it's literally just like building a muscle. If you want to get bigger muscles, you want to build more strength, you just have to do it over and over and over. And it gets way easier. It just gets so much easier. What I used to, before I'd record a video, I'd be dreading the night before, just extreme stress of just having to record a video. And the thing that makes it so ridiculous is you're not recording in front of a crowd. You're just recording in your room where no one is even watching you. So it's literally absurd the way that we build these things up in our mind. And I just realized that I'm you know what, this just doesn't matter. I'm here to add value. I'm here to, I'm doing this to help people. So I shouldn't be nervous or ashamed or whatever, limiting beliefs I'm getting running through my head. So I would say that's probably the biggest thing that's helped. If you watch my early videos, you watch my newer videos, you'll see a clear difference in my delivery and my confidence. And so I would say that's the most important part, is really just putting in the reps so that you get better on video, which then really is a compound effect of that. So.
Love it. Put in the reps like it's a muscle and work that confidence in. I mean, I can totally feel you on that. I mean, if you look at my earlier videos of when I just started the show, last year in July, it's my confidence level has gone up. If you just keep on doing it every week, I schedule this out every week. I'm booked until August. So it's like, I know I'm going to keep on doing this. So it's just something that I just keep on building. Okay. We got a comment here from Amit. He says, thanks, Nathan. Really honest answer. Some good vibes here. We got one more question. We got what is your favorite link building method?
Oh, wow. There are a few. So my favorite method is creating content that attracts backlinks. That's my favorite, my favorite method of all, because at the end of the day, that's the most scalable way to acquire links. Because once you have a really good asset that is really link worthy and people are wanting to actually link to it, you can get links at a rapid rate. So, and you can see the difference, like even on my website, if you go and look, like the pages that have the most links, they have substantially more links than the other pages on my site. It's a classic 80-20 rule, right? So 20% of my content gets 80% of the links. So, when you have an asset that's working, go hard on it. Like when you've gotten that validation that it's link worthy, it should become your number one vehicle for acquiring links, because people don't realize this, but like driving links to a single page and then flooding that link equity to other pages on the site, it can have such a huge effect on site authority. So you don't need to be getting links to every single page on your site. You just need to really take advantage of the pages that are getting the most links. And that's something that we try to do too. Like even when we're prioritizing, like, okay, where are we going to build internal links on a website? We always prioritize the pages that have the most backlinks. That's always the first where we focus. So, that's one thing is building out assets that are actually link worthy. And that's easier said than done. It's not so simple, but there are many ways to go about doing it. Just finding, you can go into Ahrefs, study the competitors, see what pages on their website have attracted the most backlinks, and then create something that's different and better than what they've created. And that's important. The different part is the most important part. I think sometimes we get in these like battles of who can write the longest piece of content, but it's not about writing the longest piece of content. Content's about it's about creating something that's totally different. Why would someone want to link to your page versus the competitor's page who already has all the links? And they're not going to link to yours just because you added an extra 1,000 words more than them. So it needs to feel different. It needs to have a totally different experience altogether, so people can say, oh, wow, there's a clear contrast between those two assets. This one's has a different angle than this one. So, so that's what we need to be thinking about. And that's that's always my first thinking about what assets we can create. Then as far as like actually, going out and pushing for more links, one thing I like to do, which is a little more gray hat, is acquiring relevant domains with existing link profile. And I've talked about this method for a very long time. I actually call it the merger technique. But I used it a long time ago, really by accident, because we had a client they had like all these they're going out and acquiring a bunch of different data centers around the US. And they're like, so what are we going to do with all these websites? And I'm like, well, why don't we just take them and redirect them to the primary site and create these landing pages? So we created, Dallas data center landing page. We created, all these different data center landing pages, and then we would redirect whatever data center it was for that location to that page. And I didn't really expect a whole lot. I was like, yeah, I'll probably build their authority, but it wouldn't do a whole lot. And then I was like, whoa, this really worked super well. And that's why I came up with the merger technique, because that's what it is. You're merging companies together. So there's a good way to do it and there's a bad way to do it. We can talk about that, but yeah, those are the two that pop out. And then in addition to that, one thing that I've been talking about a lot recently is like when you're narrowing that link gap between you and the competitors for a given keyword, you're going to hit a point where you get just as many links as the competitor for a given keyword, right? So like, let's say the amount of links you needed according to Ahrefs was like 9 referring domains, for example. Let's say you hit 9 referring domains, you're equal with the competitors, but you're still not ranking. So what do you do next? Do you keep just hammering that page with more and more links? Well, that's dangerous, because then you start to look a lot different than everyone else that's ranking. And that you don't want to do that, because you're going to start to stand out a lot. You're going to start to attract a little more attention that you're being more aggressive on the link building side. So one thing we like to do is to, instead of building more tier 1 links to the primary page, we start to focus on tier 2 link acquisition. So we build up the strength of the tier 1 placements, do that for a long time and see how far we can get. And then if we get stuck again, we'll probably start hitting with a couple more tier 1 just to get that final push. But we don't want to stick out in any way. That's important. So yeah, those are a few items.
That was a great last tip there. Even the expired domain was, I mean, like one of the big like acquisition merger type links I would always think of is like that always comes into mind is like Neil Patel, how he bought Uber Suggest and just made it go to his domain and his subdomain. Okay. All right, guys. I mean, we're coming close to time here. If you have any other questions, ask it. But I'm going to ask my last question before we get to see when I put someone in. But if someone wants to get into the SEO industry, what would be your advice to them? What's that advice for them? Someone to become an SEO expert, professional, whatever it is. What is your advice?
Yeah, I mean, it would depend on what channel they want to use to make money with SEO, obviously. And there are a lot of opportunities. I always try to push people towards client SEO in the beginning. No matter what path you want to go, client SEO is still a really good way to start because it gives you cash flow. You can take that cash flow and it gives you security. And you can also use that cash flow to reinvest into other things you want to do. So let's say you have a long-term goal of building like a media portfolio, of different websites. Well, you need capital to be able to make those investments. If you don't have capital, it's going to take you literally 20 years to be able to do that. So that is, to me, is the biggest shortcut is you don't even need to build up this huge agency. You can just get to, $10,000 a month. And that's plenty of capital for you to start to invest in these other projects. But without that, it becomes very difficult. You're probably going to be making your investments with a credit card and using debt instead of using other people's cash to make those investments. So, and now the way to actually get clients, it's kind of a catch-22 is you need to have results in some way. So the way that I try to get people to get that portfolio of results is to start like just one really small niche website where you can start to rank for some super uncompetitive keywords just to build up a decent portfolio. Those rankings are a part of your portfolio because you have achieved those results. So although they're not with a client, you still got those results. So that's still a part of that's still a part of it. In fact, that's what I did in the beginning. Like I had all these results for niche websites. I just took them all, made that my portfolio. And then I used that when I was pitching the clients. So that's why I recommend starting, a smaller niche website, build up that portfolio if you don't have one. And there's many ways to go about building a portfolio, obviously, but that's just one way. And then focusing on client SEO to get cash and capital so you can reinvest, or just stick with client SEO and keep building that up. But regardless, having cash makes life a lot easier. So.
Love it. Thank you for that. Animal Nerd says, "What awesome! Thanks, Nathan." Okay. All right. Is there any? I didn't see any other questions coming, but is there any any advice, comments, or any last words you want to make this episode feel complete for you? The stage is yours.
Oh man, advice. I guess I would say my biggest piece of advice would be you have to keep going. That's a thing that, you cannot expect this to be easy, because if you expect it to be easy, you're going to be very disappointed. This is not SEO. I certainly, it would make my life a lot easier if it was easier, but it isn't anymore. It requires processes. It requires constantly leveling up your skills and learning complementary skills to improve your performance. So, but one thing I would say too is you got to get out of the mindset of being an SEO executor. Stop thinking in terms of like, I need to go and fix these broken links, or I need to go and fix these redirects, or you need to think more like an SEO manager. You're someone who's able to identify the issues, and then you have people who can go and fix those issues. And as you start to transition to that manager role, you're managing other people who can actually go and do those things. And you're acting more like a strategist as opposed to an executor. It changes the whole game for a lot of people. So, one of the biggest challenges I hear from people who work with clients is they just get stuck at a certain revenue number. And I'll tell you, it's usually between $10,000 and $20,000 per month. That is like the sticking point for almost everyone that I talk to. And that's just because they don't have the systems and they don't have the people to do the work. And the only way to grow a business is you need systems and people. And client SEO is not inherently a scalable business model because it always, as clients grow, so do resources. So they're always growing at the same pace. So it's not truly scalable in that way, but you can grow it. But the only way to grow it is to have systems and have people who can operate within those systems. So that's my advice. Yeah.
Damn! Love it. Great advice there. Is it okay? I'm coming close to the end. How can people get a hold of you? Is it like Twitter, LinkedIn? What is the best way?
Yeah. I mean, you can go to gotchseo.com and sign up for the free case study that we talked about. There's a little video where I explain some of the stuff. And then if you're interested in joining our coaching program, there'll be like a little link in there where you can apply. And there should be a link on my website if you want to apply for it as well. But yeah, I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn. I don't really publish a whole lot there because I'm kind of focused on, my Traffic 2X program. But yeah, GotchSEO.com is a good place.
All right. Thank you for that. Okay, Nathan, I want to, if you can, just hold on for one quick second while I sign off. Let me go.
Sure.
All right. All right, guys, that concludes another episode of the SEO Video Show. I hope you like. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to get notified for next week's show. I will see you next Friday. Have a great weekend. Peace.
Thank you for watching. Hope you come back next week. Make sure to subscribe. You don't want to miss a thing. Hope you learn something new because the vibe is incredible. From the special SEO professionals, SEO video show. Let's work. Want to see you be an SEO expert. Paul Andre DeVera helping you step it up. No delay right now. Time to level up. Hey, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe. Woo!